welcome to another episode of Living Room Wisdom, where your story is your glory. I am Patrina Wisdom, abundance activator, best-selling author, TEDx speaker, and founder of Pure Abundance Retreat. And I'm just thrilled to have this beautiful young lady here, Stephanie Courtillier. She is the founder of Integrous Women, and so I met her through a very dear friend, and I have not had an opportunity to spend a ton of time with you one-on-one, but every time we interact, every time that we get a chance to be in each other's energy, what always strikes me about you is your groundedness, your mission, and just how you show up, how consistent you are in the way that you show up. So I'm going to actually allow you to introduce yourself, but we don't want to hear right now what you do. We want to hear truly who is Stephanie Courtillier.
All right. I'm going to honor the groundedness that you just brought out in me this moment.
Into the space,
yes,
right?
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Who is Stephanie Courtillier? I think if I speak of myself in third person, she is an evolving being, So constantly in growth, constantly in seeking of something, kind of like this hunger, this spark that's inside of me. I'm constantly fueling with my interactions with people that I'm meeting. But I wear so many hats. I'm a 2-year-old mom at this point. Can I say that? Not so new, but
You're a toddler.
Been around. I'm a toddler mom. Yeah, I'm a fur mom as well. I got a fur baby at home, and I love life, and I'm constantly in search of the next experience, the next person I get to meet, the next conversation that's going to light something up, and that's going to help me really, I think, kind of peel back more levels of myself as I'm really in search of, I think I'm constantly in search of who is Stephanie Courtillier, and I think I'll eventually get to that point where everything is Stephanie Courtillier and I am everything, right? Like that kind of oneness with life.
I love it. I love that answer, actually. It's a very honest answer because it is a journey. And even though our journeys do evolve and shift and change, I'm a true believer, though, that at the core of our being doesn't change. So what would you say in all of the things that you've experienced, the different phases, you're now a wife, you're now a mom, you're now an entrepreneur, and all of these different facets of your life, what would you say is the through line that never changes?
Love.
Hey.
Always and always love. Yes.
Love.
I think that's always been the grounding centerpiece for me is, and I think I'm finding this sense of knowing that that's really where I'm coming home is with that. I kind of found this like newfound mission for myself, which is and not from an egotistical way in any way, but I am love. And how do I really truly allow myself to receive love very humbly? And how do I intentionally give and emanate love through every micro interaction that I have? And that's really hard with a toddler at home. It starts at home. It starts with myself.
Yeah.
It starts with the what's happening between just this head of mine and the constant narrations. But the through line for me always has been love. And if I had a second answer, it'd be service. It'd be what does it mean to be in service? What does it mean to be giving of ourselves, of our skills, of our capacities, and not even that, but just in our way of being. What is that emanating in the world?
And I feel like for sure the way that you show up, that being in service is very prominent. Obviously the love as well. You have to love in order to be of service. However, everything that I've seen you do, because you know how it is, you meet in person, you connect, you drop in, and then you go into virtual world. And so the majority of our connection, the continued connection, has been virtual and just kind of following what you're up to in the world. And so these spaces that you're creating, I would love for you to just share a little bit more about that, because I know it's evolving, ever evolving. But in the capacity that I met you in with Integrous Women, it was just her building this amazing community and holding space for everyone else's brilliance. And so I know this is evolving, and I'd love for you to just share a little bit more.
Thank you. Yes. It really sparked from this space for myself as I was going out and networking and really, finding myself through others' eyes, I would say. And I found this gap. And the gap for me was a lot of people were out putting on this kind of facade, this mask, this armor, as Brene Brown would put it, right? And a lot of times as I was networking, what's the one question we ask? It's, what do you do? And so I started instead asking, what do you love? And I just watched how that shift in the question and the inquiry, how it completely changed and transformed the type of interactions I was creating. And so Integrous Women sparked from the space of me really being in seeking of self, and also in inquiry with others who were looking for a level of depth that we unfortunately aren't getting as much in our society these days. And so it started with just 8 women around a table, and I remember we just kind of went around and I asked, I think, 3 core questions, which is essentially, what's going well, what challenge are you facing, and what are you hoping to create in the world? And from there, this kind of magic unfolded, where it was a vulnerable space, it was a safe space, and I had no idea what I was doing at the time, aside from I'm just really curious and I love people and I wanted to get to know them. And so it evolved. I've had Integrous Women for about 5 years now, and so evolved into, I always say, like these spaces where we talk about really 3 things: personal development, professional development, and philanthropy. Philanthropy is crucial and core, that kind of being in service. But as I evolved, both as a mom and as just a spiritual seeker, I'm finding that really my intention with building these spaces is that place to not only be in service for ourselves and for others, but to build that safety enough to give and receive love, to really learn. And I was humbled by, I went through severe postpartum with my son those first 3 months, and building Integrous Women, I was always about, how do I give into these amazing women and help spotlight them and feature them, just as you're doing an amazing job of bringing people together and sharing those stories and uplifting women. But in my darkest moments was when I really learned the kind of the core, the crux of what community is. And it's through being in a state of open to receiving, which I was not open to receiving, nor had I any idea how to ask for help. Right. And so I, once again, deeply humbled, but learned so much in those difficult moments for myself, of the power of gathering, the power of holding space for each other. And a lot of times without words even having to be spoken, like just to sit in silence with people in that pain, and to, once again, to create, and I think that's what it's evolving into now, is intentionally creating spaces to give and receive love, that kind of overarching love. And we get into different topics and themes, but to me, that's to me that North Star is, how do we just really push more love into not push, it's a very masculine word. How do we like gently guide emanate. More love? Yes, radiate. Radiate. I like radiate, yes. But how do we, it's a shift from all the doing state to a being state. And I'm, really practicing that. Having a toddler is very helpful because they're in being all the time. And so just learning to be is one of my greatest lessons and practices these days.
It's a theme.
Yes.
It's a theme. Literally, I do these interviews and there's always a theme every season, and that has been a big theme, is moving from that space of forcing, pushing, overworking, proving, right? Yes. Proving your worth, competing, to being, allowing, right? And we just also talked about, this idea of a soft life. Like, you don't have to fight, you get to just be, you get to embody. And so that's awesome, because it means you're connected and you're aligned with everything that's going on in the universe right now.
I will take that. I will receive that. Good practice.
All in practice,
good
right?
Practice. Always practicing, always practicing.
I love it. And so for yourself, can you tell me who you were before having your child and who you are now? Like, what's changed? What's been that evolution? And how has it strengthened your mission and, vision of your life?
Before I had my son, I was always it's funny, I would visualize these 2 paths. And it was one path was the career-driven, badass woman with all the toys and just hyper successful, right? And the other path was I just want to live a simple life in the country with my 20 children. And, just very, mom at home, baker, just simplicity. And I always felt this dual pressure in both ends, where anytime I'd push too hard here, it's okay, I got to lean back into just simple and home and, be a homebody, be that. And so having Teo at the stage that I was growing Integrous Women, so we were 3 years into this mission, and I remember this distinct moment I had a board of these fantastic women who were all in their 40s and 50s, and I'm in my early 30s. I say that on purpose because many of them are moms, and many of them have very successful businesses. And so I'm pregnant. I'm about to give birth, I think, that month. I sit them all down and I go, all right, ladies, so I'm going to take like a month off-ish, but I'll be here. Like, you can email me, and then I'm going to come back and we're going to start doing the events. And there's like the silence that just sits in the room, right?
They didn't laugh?
And no, there was a deafening silence, and everyone's like eyeballing each other, like, who the hell does this chick think she is? And I'm like, I literally sit there, I'm like, you don't believe in me? And I get so, I'm like angry, and I'm like upset. And they're just sitting there like, okay, Stephanie, look, you want to take your 30 days off, you do that. Like, and then, you come back when you want to come back. But let's just talk plan B in case you need a little extra time. Of course, I ended up going through this like 3-month in serious depression, like full. And the depression was my like dark night of the soul kind of thing, right? Really opening, where who I was before was this like very pushing into this career driven, create success, build the legacy, build the impact was like a thing that I had to go do and create in this world and push, really the pushing that you're talking about. And so having Teo was a dead stop. It felt like this little human is stopping everything I've ever created. I was so angry. I was like angry all the time. I was so just like, but deeply depressed because I just watched myself exhausted. Yeah. There's a reason sleep is a torture mechanism. Like, it was so messed up. And I would just sit there thinking of all the stuff I could no longer do because of this little human that now is sucking my life away. This is literally how I felt for 3 months. And this is what's hilarious is my husband is like more the French, very realist, a little pretty pessimistic. I'm the optimist. So we completely flipped roles for 3 months. So we had this moment of like he would say something trying to be optimistic and I would just like shut it down. And we just sat there, we had a good laugh together. I'm like, oh my God, like I'm you and you're me. Like, what the hell just happened? So it was like it felt like this roadblock really where I now had to face myself is what it ended up being, of course, right? Like it's me looking my son, but it's me looking at myself going, why can't I give love, and why am I not able to receive the abundance of love that's in this moment of giving birth to this joyous, beautiful baby, the community that surrounded me in this space? And it made me think back to, I had a miscarriage before him, and I remember this distinct moment of like feeling like I could feel joy and I could feel pain all in the same moment, and just like how crazy of an experience that was to, depending on the certain circumstance, to have two such different emotions inside of us. And I remember having that same, true. Exactly. But not knowing how to accept both of them. Mm-hmm. Going like, I should be happy right now, but I'm so angry or I'm so sad. And like, how do I be in both of those worlds? And having that same moment here again, where it was almost like, I just kind of like these glimpses, like anyone who's been through serious depression, it's this fog that just takes over. And we have these moments that we kind of, when we look back, it's these moments of joy, these moments we just kind of see glimpses of it. And that's what those first 3 months feel like. It's just a lot of glimpses of specific interactions that helped me. To your original question, I was this very strong, driven person before that helped guide me into a more that grounded space, that space to really allow love in. Like one of those moments I remember just literally breaking down in my mom's arms and just being like, I can't do this. Like, there's no way I can do this. Like, literally thinking like, I can run away. I can, like, I'm just trying to find any exit route from this life that I've created for myself. And her just holding me like, you're going to get through this. It's going to be fine. And so just like being built back up, I think is what it felt like after those 3 months, to be humbled, to feel like I was completely broken down, but also kind of rebirthed in this very new, like, surrender, like being my word of, which was ended up being my word of that year, 2021. And just allowing, like really just being in this kind of ending up like just open arm, like, okay, like whatever needs to happen is going to happen. Whatever path I thought I was on, I'm probably still on, but I might be like 2 tracks down this way, right? And it's like, I'm going to get to wherever I need to get to. And it's not going to happen from me pushing anything. It's really going to happen from that state of allowing, receiving. And I think today, kind of 2 years on the other side of this, I come back to those moments of, that's what matters most, is really, it's the letting go, it's the surrendering, it's the trusting, it's the faith. So I'm much more Anyone who knows me, I mean, I still book out my calendar. So I'm not like a full, like I haven't let go of all control. And there's a lot of control that I've had to let go of. And that's been the biggest blessing and gift to be in receiving.
I have to ask if you are a writer.
I'm not. I try to be. I don't try to. I think it's funny. The more I've been on the spiritual path, I'll get these moments of download, and I think that's where my best stuff comes out. Of course. Where I just kind of sit in front of them, like, there's something in me that just needs to be expressed, and so I will use writing.
You're a very good communicator.
The
way that you articulated that experience, I was just in awe, and all I could think about was, oh my goodness, I can't wait for my daughter to hear this interview because she, as you know, I'm a new grandma.
Yes. What a blessing.
And she has a 15, soon to be 16-month-old. And so I'm just listening to you like, oh, that gives so much. I never had postpartum depression per se, although, you know, there's also that like fight or flight, and I fight through, you know, and then I like feel the feels after the fact. When the fire is out, then I sit with the feels. And so me supporting, witnessing, being in this journey with her, I admittedly don't always understand. Like, I can't necessarily empathize, but the way that you explained everything, I was like, oh, that's, I see it. But the detail in which you were able to articulate that is brilliant. So I just have to tell you that there's a book in you. There's some writing in you for sure. So embrace that. Yeah, I love it. And so now life with little. Life with little. What are the highs of your life with little?
I mean, like any parent, you think your child's like the greatest joy in the world. Like, they're just the freaking best. The highs, my favorite moments are, and we can maybe talk about this or not, but this sounds so weird and morbid, but I've become obsessed with learning about death. Because I find that the best way that we can live our best lives is to be intimate with death. And so I think it's having done a lot of research and reading like things on hospice and things of just other people's stories and near-death experiences. I'm just fascinated by this other world. But to me, it's hearing their accounts helps me really be present, because it's those simple moments that many people talk about when they're about to die or when they've crossed over and come back. It's so just the other day, and I'm grateful that I'm getting all these lessons, and I recognize at a younger age. And so I put those into practice as much as I can. So for me, the highs are those very simple day-to-day moments where I'm dressing him in the morning, or we just got this like little not step stool, but like a little booster seat for the family table. Like, I was literally every day sitting on these tiny toddler chairs, and my back is killing me because that's where all of our meals were happening. Literally, my husband, myself, we have this gorgeous dining table that's just is full of toys at this point. And we're just sitting on this little crappy plastic chair and tables, right? So we finally were like, okay, we need to just get him a booster seat. He's going to sit at the big table with us. So he took Daddy's spot. Daddy's not very happy about that, but he's at the front of the table. And so but those moments where we're all at the family table having a meal and being dorks and laughing. And, he's at that stage where it's like, he will throw something. You're like, don't do that. He gives you these like,
right.
And you're just like,
that's the best age too. Like, those early years are just, I can sit and watch my grandbaby all day. She's just the most entertaining thing to me, and I learn so much. I do feel like they are mirrors. They are mirrors, but they remind you of the truth of who you are. And they remind you that you get to have a voice, and that you get to have a fit, and that you get to honor your emotions, and you get to throw a fit every now and then, right? Yes. So I do love it. It's just so refreshing to relive those moments through our children and our grandchildren.
So much to learn. So, and I'm so much more conscious to even, you talk about communication, but the language that we use. And I think there was this quote that just hit me. Sometimes certain things, certain words, or things people say just smack you. And I've had many of those moments, but this one was, I think the essence of it was, the words we use as parents become their inner voice. And that one I've just been sitting with. So when I say don't do that, for example, or be careful, you're going to hurt yourself, it's like I'm creating all like his inner reality with my own fears and my own anxieties, my own way of seeing the world. And so I'm just hyper conscious now as how do I help to change my own language, but also really, and the other piece that I've been just sitting with too is surrendering that he is his own person, and the letting go, like still loving and caring so much. My mom has a saying that I love, and it's, as a parent, we are here to build them roots and spread their wings. And so how do I kind of balance that sense of like, I just want to cage you up and you just don't move and you look pretty right there and like mommy can come play with you and then that's it. But it's like, no, like this is this little human who's going to fall, who's going to smack his head on the corner of that table that I'm looking at, right? Like he's going to do all these things. And for me to just be okay and be okay with myself enough, right? Like trust and love myself enough that I get to love him in all the ways that matter most, and not need to be that like full, like I'm a controller, I'm a type A, so like all that translates into how I parent too. And so how do I work on both of those sides of my business but also my personal life and really integrate all the lessons? Everything is a growth.
It's an invitation. It's an invitation. Right?
Yeah, think twice before having children. There's so much, but so much growth for myself. Yeah.
And you are still not in your 40s yet.
No, I'm about to be 33 this year.
Girl, you just entered your 30s.
Yeah.
You're such an old soul.
Yes.
And that's one of the things that struck me when we first met, is just like, such an old soul. Where do you think that came from?
Probably the past lives that I've lived, like the numerous past lives. I have a very wise mother, very wise mom. And so she's a spiritual life coach. And then I like to, I phrase it like who I am. I say the story a lot is I'm literally the blend of my parents. My mom is a European spiritual life coach. So I'm very, she's very grounded. She's very service oriented. All my volunteering I've done because of her. And then I have my dad, who's a Moroccan, like Middle Eastern businessman, like very boots to the ground, hustle, workaholic, very hardworking. And so I have both of these people inside of me, and that's been a lot of cause for some inner kind of qualms and like the who am I, the seeking. And I think as the older I'm getting, the more I'm really tuning into that spiritual nature and the groundedness and love. Like there's a part of me that loves the seeking and the ambition and the working and the striving, and there's a part of me that really appreciates the silence, right, and the slowing down. Even just in my tone, like I have so much energy and I talk really fast when I get excited, but this is like a whole nother piece to just the quiet and the space in the quiet.
Yeah, and I think it's actually a great gift because you have, the opportunity to integrate and be all of it. Yeah. I'm all about integration and expressing all parts of yourself, because I'm the very same way, where there's just so many parts of me that quite honestly contradict other parts of me, right? So,
ooh, well said, yeah.
Yeah, and it's like, well, I'm not going to explain it to you. It's just who the hell I am, and they're all true at the same time, right? And so it's a very interesting reality that we get to live and just embrace. We don't have to choose, I'm an and girl. I get to be this and that.
Yes.
Yeah.
No buts here.
So it's fun for me because I've known you, I want to say maybe like 2-3 years now, right? From afar.
Yeah.
And I just love watching people's journeys. And it really is an honor for me to be able to have this opportunity to sit with you and just learn more about you and your vision, hear your vision of where you're going with your company and everything, because now I get to just like sit back and watch and witness,
Yes.
So if there's someone out there that is maybe entering their motherhood journey, but also have this part of themselves that is very motivated and ambitious and want to take on the world, so someone who's basically entering the journey that you've walked, what would be some words of wisdom that you would offer?
It's funny. I literally have my. I think the two that come up are patience and surrender. Patience and surrender. It's. I have my mom's voice in my head. She's just such a mentor to me, and she's always saying it. Like, she was put here to learn patience. I have a very trying younger brother. I love him, but he's a trying child. And so I think as any parent, really any human, to really own that quality of patience is such a gift. And maybe that's also why I'm drawn to serving with hospice or serving with those, is I find that the more that present enough to be in witness of others. I love that word that you use, like to witness and to be an observing, but to be the guide on the side, to be the one. I think so many of us who are ambitious individuals, we want to be that. It's like the sage on the stage, right? They say like the person in the front with all the power, but to me, there's a magic to the team behind the person. There's a magic to, the person who actually barely speaks in the conversation, but I find myself being more and more drawn to those individuals. There's this energy and this its own kind of unique, more feminine power, this softer nurturing that, going back to you, beautiful women, the patience and surrender. And once again, kind of my two paths. I think that is the integration. Actually, this is the first time I'm thinking through this, but like those two paths that I've always seen as so distinct, the integration of them coming together is that it's the quiet nurturing, it's the silence, it's the being in contemplation and being so giving to the other person that we're with. I think that's the greatest gift we could give, especially today, is to truly listen and to see someone. I don't know if anyone's seen the movie Avatar, but there was the newest one. The words that they were saying, like, I see you. And we can say that so simply, but to hold a space and go, I see you, and just to be with the person when you say that, it gives me chills, and it's almost stronger than I love you sometimes, because it's, wow, there's power. And so as a family, we actually now say, I see you, instead of I love you often. And there's something there, for me to continue to seek and to be unfolding. But the spaces, the communities, the work I'm really proud of, and the work that I'm constantly wanting to evolve is that work. It's helping people to feel seen and to feel and learn to receive the love, because most women were such givers, and we were the first to raise our hands to go volunteer and to do the things, but to be in a space of being with fellows and to be in inquiry and in dialogue with each other. And sometimes that dialogue is just sitting in silence, and that's powerful.
Yes, it is. I love it. I feel as if our callings are quite similar. I get to dance both dances. I have the stars, if you will, that star archetype where it's like I am the one. However, I do feel myself evolving into wanting to be more of the space holder, uplifter, guide, and witness. And so it's very interesting what you said, because I can feel that transition. Whereas when I was younger, I always needed to be the one, right? I needed to be the star. I was the performer and all of the things. And I'm finding much more joy and fulfillment. And maybe it's age, I'm a grandma now. Pushing 50 here this year. But I think in that evolution, it is quite beautiful. And I've always admired the supporters. I've always admired the quiet strength, which I think is why I've always been so enamored by you. Because even though you are a leader, you lead with quiet strength. So I'm so excited to have you here. This was beautiful. Just such an honor to share space. So happy to be able to share her with you and her beautiful work. Thank you so much, as usual, for tuning in to another episode of Living Room Wisdom, where your story is your glory. Follow us on Instagram and Facebook, subscribe to our podcast, and we will see you again right here, same time, same place, at Living Room Wisdom. See you next week.